The flashing red and blue light sliced through the calm suburban afternoon like a lightning bolt cracking open a quiet sky. On my phone security feed, I watched two officers stride through Willowbrook Estate's pristine gates, their expressions sharp with urgency. And right there, on my porch, stood Karen Whitfield, our self-proclaimed neighborhood queen, HOA president, and part-time dictator, brandishing a shiny key like it was a personal badge of authority. Her face was a furious shade of red, her voice shrill as she pounded on my locked door. She had no idea that inside, my 12-year-old son, Leo, was sitting quietly behind the couch, recording every moment on his phone just like I'd taught him. What Karen didn't know was at this time, she was the one about to get exposed. My name's Marcus Chen. I'm a single dad and a software engineer. 3 months ago, Leo and I moved into Willowbrook Estates, a gated community that was supposed to be safe, peaceful, and modern. The lawns were clipped to perfection. The air smelled like fresh-cut grass and ambition, and the HOA rules seemed reasonable enough on paper. But what I hadn't counted on was Karen Whitfield, the woman who treated her HOA title like it made her judge, jury, and executioner of suburban life. From day one, she'd made her opinion clear. She didn't approve of unsupervised children. The first time she saw Leo walking home from a bus stop alone, she cornered me in my own driveway. She wore that tight, sugary smile that always had a sting beneath it. "Maybe you should look into after-school care," she said sweetly, her tone dipped in condescension. Single parents often underestimate how much guidance kids need. I smiled politely, though my blood was boiling. Leo's 12. He's smart, responsible, and perfectly fine for a couple of hours while I work. I've got cameras all over the house. I can see him anytime. That should have ended it. But Karen wasn't the type who let go when someone told her no. A week later, she claimed there was an HOA rule against leaving minors under 16 home alone. I asked to see it. She promised to send me the updated bylaws soon. They never came. Instead, she doubled down. Every afternoon, her silver SUV would appear just as the school bus arrived. She'd crawl past our house, pretending to check street signs or mailboxes, but her eyes were always on Leo. Sometimes she'd even part across the street, phone in hand, pretending to text while she watched him walk up our driveway. Leo started asking questions. "Dad," he said one evening, "why is that mean lady always watching me?" I told him not to worry, but inside, I was furious. She'd crossed the line. So I started documenting everything. Dates, times, screenshot from my cameras. I had no idea just how valuable that file would become. Then came the Tuesday everything exploded. I was deep in a video call with my clients in Japan, mid-presentation, when my phone buzzed with an urgent alert from our smart home system. Front door access attempt, unauthorized key. I froze. The feed opened automatically. On screen was Karen, jamming a key into my lock, muttering about HOA safety checks and welfare protocols. My stomach dropped. Then I heard her voice through the MIC, sharp and commanding. "Open this door immediately. HOA inspection." Leo's terrified whisper came next. "Dad, that Karen lady's trying to open the door." I kept my voice calm, even though my pulse was racing. "Lockdown protocol. Buddy, just like we practice." He pressed the panic button near the stays, sealing every door and window. The cameras lit up across my app, showing every angle of the house. He was safe, for now. Then I watched in disbelief as Karen, instead of leaving, pulled out her phone and called 911. Her voice shifted instantly from angry to frantic. "Yes, there's a child alone in this house," she said breathlessly. "He's not responding. I'm the HOA president, and I'm performing a welfare check. I think he's in danger." It was pure theater and dangerous. She was lying to the police. As soon as she hung up, I called 911 myself, explaining that a woman was attempting to break into my home while my son was inside. The dispatcher assured me units were already en route. I ended the meeting mid-sentence, grabbed my keys, and drove like my life depended on it. By the time I turned onto Willowbrook Drive, the entire neighborhood shimmered with flashing lights. 2 officers stood on my porch, trying to piece together the situation while Karen gestured wildly, her voice slicing through the afternoon air. "That's him," she shouted when she saw me pull up. That's a negligent father who abandoned his son. The officers, Martinez and Thompson, according to their nameplates, shared a look that told me they weren't fully buying it. I parked, took a deep breath, and approached. So, Officer Martinez said evenly, "We received a report of an unattended child." "My son is fine," I interrupted. "You can talk to him through the doorbell camera." Leo's face popped up on the screen. "Hi, officers," he said calmly. "I'm okay. I was just doing my homework." The officers nodded, reassured. But Karen wasn't done. "He's lying," she snapped. "That child is scared of his father. He's being forced to say that." I turned the key in my lock. It opened smoothly on the first try. Karen's master key dangled uselessly from her trembling hand. Inside, Leo was sitting at the kitchen table, pencil in hand, math book open, perfectly calm. The officers checked the kitchen and living room, confirming there was food, water, and everything a safe home should have. Then I turned to the living room TV and brought up the security feed. The video spoke louder than any words could. It showed Karen approaching the door, waving the fake key like a trophy, and trying to force it into the lock for almost 10 minutes before she even made her Wi-Fi call. Officer Thompson's expression hardened. He said coldly, "Where did you get that key?" Karen hesitated, her arrogance cracking. "It's part of the HOA emergency kit," she stammered. "I made a copy when I did a home inspection last month. For safety." Martinez's tone sharpened. "So you duplicated a homeowner's key without permission?" She swallowed hard. "Well, technically." "That's not safety," he said flatly. "That's criminal." And just like that, the balance shifted. For the first time since I'd moved into Willowbrook Estates, Karen Whitfield didn't look like the queen of the neighborhood. She looked small, caught, cornered, and terrified of the truth finally catching up to her. The living room was silent except for the faint hum of the TV. The officers stood shoulder to shoulder, eyes locked on Karen as security footage looped again. Each frame made her story crumble further. The illegal key, the fake welfare check, the 911 call full of lies. Her once perfect posture was sagging, her fingers twitching nervously around that useless key. Outside, neighbors had begun to gather. Some were watering plants, others checking mail, but everyone was watching. Phones were out, cameras ready. The queen of Willowbrook Estates was being dethroned in real time, and no one wanted to miss it. Officer Thompson's voice broke the tension. Duplicating a resident's key without authorization is illegal, and filing a false emergency report? That's another offense. Karen's lips trembled. "You don't understand," she sputtered. "I was trying to protect the community. There are rules." "Rules don't override the law," Martinez interrupted. His voice was calm but edged with steel. "You don't have authority to enter someone's home, especially not a private residence with a child inside." I handed him my phone, scrolling through the folder I'd been building for weeks. "I've been documenting her harassment," I explained. "She's been stalking my house, watching my son, and inventing fake HOA policies." The officer glanced at the screen. There were screenshots of her fake rule emails, timestamps of her SUV park across the street, even doorbell footage from our neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, showing Karen sitting in her car for 20 minutes, just staring at our house. Karen's face went pale. "That's taken out of context," she began, but no one believed her. Martinez stepped aside to make a call to dispatch. Thompson stayed behind, his tone cool and professional. "We're issuing citation for attempted unlawful entry and false reporting. You'll need to come with us to provide a statement." Karen blinked, stunned. "Citations? You can't be serious. I'm the HOA president." "That doesn't make you above the law," he replied evenly. The moment felt surreal. Just a few weeks earlier, she'd been strutting down our streets like she owned them. Now, she looked like a balloon losing air, her pride deflating by the second. Neighbors murmured as the officers took her statement. Someone whispered, "She's finally getting what she deserves." Someone else recorded the whole thing. Leo peeked from the kitchen, wide-eyed but calm. I gave him a reassuring smile. "It's okay, Bud. You did everything right." When the officers left, the red and blue lights fading into the dusk. Karen's empire was already collapsing. She tried to speak to me one last time as she left, something about how I'd regret this, but the words fell flat. The authority she'd built her identity on had turned to dust. A week later, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Word spread fast. Half the neighborhood showed up, more people than the community center had seen in years. The air was thick with curiosity and tension. Karen sat at the front, her perfect bun slightly undone, eyes darting nervously across the room. I arrived with my attorney, Jacob Morrison, a calm, sharp man with a reputation for dismantling HOA bullies. He carried a leather folder filled with every piece of evidence we collected. When the meeting began, Jacob took the floor. His voice was measured but carried the weight of finality. "Let's review the facts," he began. "Your president, Mrs. Whitfield, entered, or attempted to enter, a private home without consent, duplicated a homeowner's key, filed a false police report, and harassed a minor." Gasps rippled through the room. Karen squirmed in her chair. Jacob clicked the remote, and the footage appeared on the projector screen. Karen, red-faced, jamming the key into my lock. Her shouting. The timestamp calls. Every word, every action, undeniable. Tom Bradley, the HOA treasurer, cleared his throat awkwardly. "Karen, you told us the board approved your welfare check policy." I was working on it," she stammered. "It was for safety." Sarah Kim, the secretary, raised a stack of printed meeting minutes. "You tried to sneak that motion through after we voted it down. There was never any authorization." Whispers filled the room. Old allies turned away. People she'd intimidated for years suddenly found their voices again. When the vote of no confidence came up, not a single hand rose in her defense. Even Tom, who used to follow her lead like a shadow, avoided her gaze. The motion to remove Karen Whitfield as HOA president passed unanimously. Karen shot to her feet, her chair scraping loudly against the tile. "You're all ungrateful," she shouted. "This neighborhood will fall apart without me." Then she stormed out, heels clattering like drumbeats of defeat. But her downfall didn't end there. The police citations escalated into formal charges: false reporting to emergency services, attempted unlawful entry, and key duplication without consent. She was fined thousands of dollars. Her real estate license, the pride of her professional life, was suspended pending review. When our civil case reached court, the judge didn't hold back. After reviewing the footage, documents, and Leo's calm testimony, he called her actions a severe abuse of perceived authority and a violation of privacy. The judgment was swift. She owed us $15,000 in damages and legal fees, plus 100 hours of community service. The court issued a restraining order, barring her from coming within 100 feet of our home. I'll never forget the look on her face as the verdict was read. The same woman who once strutted around the neighborhood barking orders now stood trembling in her designer heels, her voice cracking as she tried to protest. Tears streaked through her carefully applied makeup. The bailiff handed her the restraining order as she whispered something about a misunderstanding, but no one was listening anymore. The mighty HOA queen had fallen. In the weeks that followed, Willowbrook Estates changed. The tension that used to hang over every barbecue and mailbox chat began to fade. Neighbors smiled more. Kids played outside without fear of being scolded. A new HOA board was formed, one that actually listened to residents instead of policing them. One evening, as Leo and I were tossing a football in the yard, Mrs. Rodriguez waved from across the street. "You two did the whole neighborhood a favor," she called out with a grin. Leo laughed. "Dad, do you think she's still mad at us?" I smiled, watching the sunset spill gold across our quiet street. "Maybe," I said, "but some doors, once closed, should stay that way." Karen had spent years trying to control everyone around her, deciding who belonged, who didn't, who was fit to live in her perfect little world. But that October afternoon, when she used her fake master key to invade someone else's home, she didn't just unlock a door. She opened the one that led to her own undoing. In the end, she taught the whole neighborhood a lesson she never intended, that no title, no fake rule, no illusion of power gives anyone the right to violate another person's home. And for the first time since moving in, Willowbrook Estates finally felt like what I'd hoped for all along, a safe place to call home.